It feels really nice to be here, especially since I know that we are being watched by a lot of students and a lot of youngsters from all over the country and maybe even internationally. For me, this is especially a great platform because I never in my wildest dreams did I imagine that I will have anything to do with something with the word tech in it. I'm somebody who knows very little about technology, but I am somebody who understands the mindset very well. So today, my talk is really going to be about leadership and a bit about resilience and a bit about education. And of course, we are going to leave the tech bit to all the experts who are going to follow after me. So, my talk today is really about resilience. When I came to Nepal almost 15 years ago, many people told me Nepali people are very resilient. We're a resilient bunch. At that point, I didn't understand exactly what the word resilient meant. And then I had to do a quick Google search. And Google told me resilience basically means being able to sustain and being able to perform and being able to be steady under pressure. Now, that I thought was a great ability, but I wanted to find out how the people of Nepal have this reputation for being resilient. How did they become so resilient? And then I did a bit of soul searching and I realized that in Nepal, you have difficult weather, difficult terrain. There has been political imbalances, which has made people overall really strong. All the difficulties that people have faced have given them this sort of strength and confidence to be able to handle situations, to be able to handle any kind of difficulties in a relatively easier way. So, the difficult terrain, the weather, all the uncertainties around make you prepared and give you a level of confidence and give you a resilient mindset, which helps you changes and with disruptions better. Now, why is this mindset important? This mindset is important because in the last 15 years since I came here, there has been a remnant of a civil war, there has been an earthquake, there has been a blockade, and there has been a pandemic. And yet, Nepal has always bounced back stronger. For a country that is not as developed as some of the countries in the West, it is amazing how well Nepal has coped with each of these. Yes, on a micro level, we have all suffered. Yes, on an individual level, people have suffered more than others. But the truth is that overall, as a country, we always bounce back and we bounce back fast. This, I feel, is because we're a resilient bunch. But why is resilience important? I feel resilience becomes more and more important because in the world tomorrow, there is going to be major disruptions. All the students who are now going to enter the workforce are going to enter a very different workforce from what I entered 15, 17 years ago. There's going to be disruptions every day. We had heard about the internet. We'd heard that there's something called the internet. Today, every year, something new comes up which changes and disrupts the way technology looks. Kodak was one of the prime examples of a company that completely went bankrupt, I think, because of what happened with cameras and with the whole digitalization of this. So we need to understand that resilience is going to be our biggest strength going forward because the entire world is going to look different from what it has looked so far. According to me, one of the biggest changes that's going to come is going to be automation. When we were young, my one of my proudest moments was that I knew the name of every country capital in the world. I thought that was a really cool thing. There was a time, probably in grade 7 or 8, when I had learnt up the names of all the capitals of all the countries in the world. I was really proud because I thought I'm smart. And when I became older, I realized that this bit of information had absolutely no relevance and no use in the real world. What I had grown up seeing was a world where learning, rote learning was considered extremely important. Knowing facts was important. Today, application of those facts is more important than ever before. With the advent of technology, we will see automation, we are going to see robotics, we are going to see any kind of monotonous work being outsourced to our robotic friends. What does that mean? For people like you and me, unless and until we are resilient, until and unless we are able to bring something new to the table that robots cannot provide, either the human touch or curiosity or the ability to ask the right questions, we will become completely obsolete and outdated. So according to me, resilience is perhaps one of the most important things that we should be teaching our children. It's going to become increasingly important in the education sector as our children go into work. I also heard somewhere that around 65% of the children who are currently studying in preschool are going to end up doing jobs that people like you and me cannot even imagine right now. What that means is that there's no way for me as a parent to prepare my child. You must grow up and become a doctor. You must grow up and become an engineer. That entire thought process has become completely obsolete now. It is important for us as parents to be resilient and to teach our children to be resilient and to teach them to ask the right questions, to be curious, to develop this sense of how can I do that better? What can I bring to the table? What is the value I can add? How can I humanize this? How can I make this more friendly? To be able to ask the right questions, because that really is going to be the edge they have over any kind of automation in the future. So that was my 2 cents about what resilience is and what automation is and how we need to start thinking as this generation. Now, the next thing that I want to talk about today is a bit of leadership. You know, leadership is often a very misunderstood topic, I think I would say, because people who win votes or people who get a lot of followers generally are considered to be leaders. I completely disagree with this. I know of a lot of people who have no formal need to be called leaders. I know of a lot of people who are not in any position to be leaders, but just because of the person they are, they become leaders. They assume leadership positions just because of who they are. And for me, that's a very liberating thought. For me, the fact that anyone can be a leader is a very important and liberating thought. Let me give you an example. A few months ago, one morning, I woke up at 5:30. I wrote a quick speech and I went to Patan without any budget, without a cinematographer. I took my camera, I put it on a tripod and I shot a video. That video was called 7 Reasons to Never Ever Visit Nepal. That video, as I speak right now, has been viewed 50 lakh times. That is 5 million times already across different platforms. Now, the thing is, at that point, I was not in any leadership position at all. Neither had anybody told me to make this video, nor had I been commissioned by the Nepal Tourism Board or the government of the country or any travel agency or anything like that to make a video. I just decided that, you know what, I live here, I love this place, I have a sense of responsibility, let me go out there and do something. And that little action that I took from my side, in a way, subconsciously or unconsciously made me a leader, because of which other people started following my work. I'm not saying I am CEO of a big company or something like that. I am just somebody who decided to take responsibility, and that responsibility and that sense of responsibility paid off. And that exactly is what leadership is. According to me, leadership is something very, very simple. Responsibility brings authority. For every student, for every youngster who wants to be a leader, do not think leadership is about having a crown on your head or a badge here that says president or a card with a fancy title. Leadership really is about having the right authority, having the right answerability, having the right intention, and having the foresight. And anyone can be a leader. I've seen companies, I train at a lot of companies, and very often I see that the CEO is the leader on paper in front of people. He is the leader. However, the real leader that people consider to be their leader, the real person who's doing the work often is somebody else. Which means that if we are looking at leadership as a concept, all students and everybody around needs to understand leadership is a very attainable concept. Leadership is not something you're going to do when you're 45 or 48 or 50 years of age, or when you're 75 or 80. You don't need to be prime minister or president or chief minister to be a leader. Anyone can be a leader. And how exactly do you develop that? If you have the right intention, if you are willing to take responsibility, and if you are willing to do something for people, you automatically become a leader. And that is something we need to understand. So 2 things I wanted to talk about today. Number 1, the first point was resilience and how it's going to be important going ahead. Because without resilience, we will not be able to forge into the next 20, 30 years, because without resilience, we will not be able to deal with all the disruptions that are going to happen around us. As a parent, I also believe resilience is extremely important, because for my son to succeed in the world tomorrow, he won't be having a competition with the other 8 billion people around him. He will also be having competition with the other 8 or 80 billion maybe computers around him and robots around him, which is why I think, again, resilience is important, curiosity is important, to know what questions to ask is important, having a human touch is important. And then I spoke about leadership. Leadership really is something that's not unattainable. You don't need to have a position or a post to be a leader. Anyone can be a leader. You take responsibility. Authority is always going to follow responsibility. So responsibility brings authority. And the third thing I want to talk to you about today, very simply, is entrepreneurship. You know, entrepreneurship, I think, is a very well used, yet not a very well understood word today. When I was studying, I'm a graduate in economics. And when I was studying economics, I was told that there are 4 factors of production: land, labor, capital, and entrepreneur. So land is basically your fixed asset or your land on which you're doing whatever production. Labor is all the people who are going to be working and who are going to be doing the real legwork. Capital is the money, so whether it's your raw materials or your machinery, all that is capital. And entrepreneurship, so the entrepreneur is the 4th factor. This is the person who takes the risk and who gets the land, labor, and capital together, and he basically creates something and adds value, and then he's able to sell his good or service or whatever it is. So as an economics student, I believe that entrepreneurship was land, labor, capital put together. Somebody who got them together, took the risk, had the foresight, was an entrepreneur. But I have to disagree, because in today's world, the real meaning of entrepreneurship is changing, and it's changing really fast. An entrepreneur is not necessarily somebody who's working with a lot of capital, or somebody who has a lot of land, or who's working on land, or who's putting a factory together. An entrepreneur, again, could be anybody with the right innovative attitude, with the right willingness to learn, with the attitude to bring things together. But I think there's one more attitude that an entrepreneur should have, and that is, an entrepreneur needs to be a multipotentialite. I repeat, an entrepreneur needs to be a multipotentialite. So what exactly is a multipotentialite? You know, let's look at I can't see too many of you, but let's think of some of the people who we consider famous entrepreneurs. Or let's think about entrepreneurs. Let's say Steve Jobs, right? Steve Jobs, of course, he knew, say, basic coding, or he knew the tech bit of it. But if he would have specialized in that, he would have been a specialist. But to be an entrepreneur, really, you must have the ability to put 2 or more different things together. That's what makes you an entrepreneur. If you don't do that, you're a specialist. An entrepreneur is somebody who actually gets and merges information and merges things from 2 or 3 different fields together. Let me give you another example. So my husband is a social entrepreneur. I don't talk about him very often. In fact, he also does not like to share too much about what he does very often. But let me tell you, all the street lights that you see in Kathmandu and the solar-powered bus stops, I don't know if you've seen them, but the solar-powered bus stops in Kathmandu, the bus stops on which you have a solar power and they are lit up at night. He came up with the concept, and he's the one who was the entrepreneur who made this for the first time in the world. And how he came up with this was very different. We had gone to Amsterdam for a vacation in 2010. And we came back from Amsterdam, and this was the time when we had a lot of power outages in Kathmandu. We used to have, I think, 16 to 18 hours sometimes of no power. And I remember, so in Amsterdam, you had beautiful bus stops. You know, the bus stops of Amsterdam, honestly, are legendary. They're really beautiful. Told him, I'm going to stand at a bus stop, take a photo of mine. And he took a picture, and we forgot all about it. It was just beautiful, took a picture, forgot about it. And then what happened is we came back to Kathmandu, and one day I was coming back from work, and he called me. It was winter, and he called me. He's like, where are you? I said, I'm on my way back. I was walking back from the office. I used to work in a mall that time. I was walking back from the office, and I said, it's really dark. This is crazy. I need to buy a little torch. He said, yeah, it's really bad, the situation. But that situation, it hit him, and he realized that we don't really need to suffer so much. It's his responsibility as well. He's a Nepali. It's his responsibility, and he did not want to blame the government anymore. So what he did was he put two and two together. He happened to see that same week some pictures of our vacation, and he saw the bus stops, and he remembered that we don't have electricity and people like me are suffering because we don't have street lights. And he said, you know what? We can make beautiful bus stops and we can put solar panels on them, and that's going to solve a lot of problems for a lot of people in different ways. So according to me, he is an entrepreneur because he saw a problem as an opportunity, which is of course the basic of any entrepreneur. So seeing every problem as an opportunity. But not only that, he managed to combine two very different things together. He got the concept of beautiful looking street furniture and beautiful looking bus stops, along with the technical expertise and the technical skill needed to get electricity to those. And he put them together into a package that worked, into a package that could be sellable. So that, according to me, is really the onus, or that is the hallmark of an entrepreneur. And an entrepreneur, yes, can identify problems. Yes, an entrepreneur sees into the future. Yes, an entrepreneur gets land, labor, and capital together. But to me, the most distinguishing factor of an entrepreneur going ahead is going to be a person who can specialize, or who can at least get experts from two or three different fields together, put them together into a package and sell that to people. And that, I think, is going to be the beauty of entrepreneurship going forward. Let me give you an example. I can see a lot of people from Nepal here, so I'm guessing this is mostly for Nepali youngsters. We've all heard of, let's say, Tootle, right? Now, I know Sikshit personally, but we haven't had this conversation, but I'm just bringing it up. Let's say Sikshit was a damn good driver, right? Tootle is about cab sharing and ride sharing. He was a damn good driver. He would have gone for Formula One. But not only was he a good driver, or not only did he understand the potential of that, he also understood the tech and the marketing behind it, which is why he's an entrepreneur. Now let's talk about something like Rohit Tiwari, Food Mario. Had he been a damn good cook himself, he would have understood food and he would have been a chef. But because he understood the food and the tech and the marketing, that's how and that's why he is an entrepreneur, which is why I say entrepreneurs going forward are going to be people who are multi-potentialites, are going to be people who can deal with disruption, which is why I believe that people from Nepal, because of our resilience, we are going to have an edge over a lot of people. And I also feel entrepreneurs are going to be people who will be able to ask the right questions as well. So these were the three things I wanted to talk about. I also wanted to talk a bit about, so I spoke about entrepreneurship, leadership, and also resilience. I wanted to talk about my story. You know, why I wanted to share my story is not because I'm a great leader or a great entrepreneur or anything like that. It's just because I think a lot of children, if I may call youngsters that, or a lot of students these days, um, because of the disruptions that are happening, and because we're not so resilient maybe, or because we're not as resilient as the 2 or 3 generations above us, because we've had more sheltered lives, some of us maybe, or maybe because we've been a bit more cocooned, we get upset very fast. We get upset when the first thing does not work out, when our first startup fails, when our second startup also fails, when our third startup also fails. But the point here is, let me tell you about myself and resilience, which is why I really wanted to talk about my story. Because when Jairaj told me, you know, what do you want to talk about? I said, maybe my story is going to give somebody a bit of insight into what resilience is and what it could be. So I got my first job. It wasn't a real job though. I was a craft teacher. And this is something people will not believe about me. I was a craft teacher in grade 8. I was teaching some little children. And these were like real children, like small children from my building art and craft when I was in grade 8. I think I earned 2,000 rupees in a month, and I was really proud of myself. I thought I was the richest kid in the world at that point. After that, I studied handwriting analysis, and I used to work as an analyst. I'm a certified trained graphologist, so I've done that. And I'm also a gold medalist in economics. So I thought that my future would be that I'll be working in, some sort of an MNC, and I'm going to be a big economist, or maybe I'm going to be contributing to the government, and I'm going to take economics forward. And then none of that happened. At that point, I had the choice of either being depressed or making do with whatever I had. And I decided to make do with whatever I had. I joined a mall, I did a job there for a few years, and then I started speaking a lot. I kept on failing. I also in the middle started an event management company, which I realized was completely not my scene because I was not good at the kind of management it takes to manage a lot of people from different fields. I don't think I was great at that point. So that completely failed. But I kept on and on and on and on trying. And I've tried such a variety of things that sometimes I feel that because of my varied experiences, I have been able to get a lot of small skills here and there. So I'm not the best cinematographer in the world, yet I know how to take basic videos. I'm not the best writer, yet because I write so much, I know how to write a good speech or a good script. I'm not the best presenter, yet because I've done this so much and I've done so many speeches, I know I can hold an audience's attention on video or in person. So I feel that the little skills that you pick up along the way, I'm not a digital marketer, yet I feel that I know enough about social media to be able to make my own digital marketing happen independently without having to go to outsiders. So what I feel is that my experience so far has been that of resilience and has been that of trying new things, because all of these give me a lot of small skills that I can pick up, get together, package them properly, and become not really like an entrepreneur in the true definition of the word, yet somebody who can do something different, and yet somebody who can create value because of the different things that I expertise in. Okay, so on that note, my 20 minutes are up. I just wanted to again talk a bit about leadership, a bit about what the future holds for us and what resilience is, and finally about a bit about entrepreneurship. I'm not going to be talking about the tech side of it. I can see a lot of fabulous people who will be much more qualified than me to talk about that. But I really wanted to talk to all the students and everybody who's watching here about the mindset behind these things and how no age is too late and how anyone can be a leader, anyone can be an entrepreneur provided you have the right mindset for that. So on that note, my keynote is done. If there are any questions, I'd be extremely happy to answer them right now.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your wonderful, powerful, insightful session. Really, without resilience, we will not be able to cope the disruption. And resilient leader sees failures as temporary setbacks they can recover from quickly. Aside from this webinar, also like to say that I also get to know you more from that video, never ever not to visit Nepal, which was viral throughout Nepal, I guess. Thank you so much for your powerful session, ma'am.